Hi, and welcome back to Uncomfortable Truths We Avoid. This is episode 4, Cracks in the Surface. The uncomfortable truth we avoid is usually cracks happen over a long period of time. And we usually notice these cracks long before we decide to say anything. It's usually that uneasy feeling. It's just something that's off, something that's not quite right. And it's moments that leave us feeling uneasy and hard to explain. It sometimes can be a comment maybe that was made and we just can't seem to forget it. Sometimes it can be that gut feeling that you're just trying to talk yourself out of and you can't seem to do it. Sometimes it's a pattern or a behavior that you notice, but you find excuses to cover it up because you're covering it up for someone that you love. Or maybe you've invested so much time in this relationship or this friendship or this job or whatever the situation may be, that you're just not willing to put the energy into starting over again. This episode really isn't about dramatic endings, but it's about all the little things that come before it, all the little cracks that you notice. Because a crack is still a crack, no matter how small that crack is. Sometimes the hardest part about that is not the fact that the signs weren't there, but it's accepting what those signs actually mean. That is the hardest pill to swallow. I have a few key points I want to touch on in this episode. And as you know, those of you who've been watching over the past few weeks, you heard some of my story and what led up to this. I wanted to share pieces of my life with you because I wanted you to truly understand who I am as a person and how I came to be how I am today. So that's truly why I wanted to share those moments with you and be vulnerable with you, because this is about being real. It's about connecting, even though we may not be here in the same place. It's about being vulnerable and being okay with that. One of the first things or cracks that I want to talk about is when disrespect gets turned into insecurity. So one of the first cracks that a lot of people usually notice is when disrespect gets flipped and turned on you, and suddenly you're insecure. So somebody says something that might be out of line and you're completely uncomfortable with it. So you address it, not so that you can start a fight or argue, but because it made you uncomfortable and you want to bring it up. But instead of that person actually listening to you and hearing what you have to say, they flip it around on you. And it suddenly turns into you being completely insecure or maybe even crazy. So how many times have you gone through this? I mean, maybe you haven't and you're one of the lucky ones, but if you have, whatever concern you had is suddenly flipped. You're so insecure. If you weren't so insecure about yourself, then maybe we wouldn't be arguing about this. You're way too sensitive. You're so sensitive. You really need to work on that. You cry about everything. You're overreacting. You always overreact. Everywhere we go, I have to deal with you overreacting. And over time, when you're having to experience this flipping of the script, you really start to question yourself. You start thinking, well, I mean, what's happening here? My concern got buried. Whatever it was, you don't even remember it because it's been buried by the fact that you're crazy, you're delusional, you're sensitive, you're insecure. It's been buried by all of this. So you don't even know if it's a valid point anymore. And it gets to the point that you start questioning yourself. Not every reaction is insecurity. Sometimes it's just having self-respect. And sometimes the discomfort that you have is a valid feeling that needs to be heard. You know, your partner or your friend or whoever it might be, they need to listen to what you have to say. I mean, I think that people start doubting themselves after a while. What's really uncomfortable is I remember having this pattern where I would bring up little things that maybe made me insecure. You know, when you're younger, you're insecure. I think as I've gotten older, I really don't care. I don't know what it is, but it's so liberating. It's wonderful. But I really don't care, you know, if anyone likes me, loves me, hates me, disapproves of me. You are welcome to have your opinion of me. That's fine. But when you're young, when you're like just getting out of high school, you're young, you really have this idea in your head. You want to be the best, but you just feel so insecure about yourself, you know? And so you have a lot of insecurities. So when certain things upset you and you bring them to the surface and they're shot down, that can really take a toll on you. That, my friends, is a crack. So if you've noticed that pattern in your life and you notice that you're being belittled in front of people, or maybe, you know, you are being told that you're just simply too sensitive, that's a crack. I hate to break it to you, but that's one item of many that we're going to discuss. Let's talk about crack number 2. When concern starts feeling like control. This one is missed by a lot of people because it's disguised as care and concern. And oftentimes it just seems like the person that you love wants to know that you're okay, know that you're doing all right. They want to check up on you. But in reality, over time, it starts changing its tone. Things start to change. Things start to feel different. So by this, I mean, if you've ever been in a situation where your significant other, or even a friend or a family member, asks you to, I'll give you an example for me. For me, it was, hey, call me when you get to work so I can make sure you got to work okay. But it couldn't be from my cell phone. It had to be from the phone that was actually connected in the office. So it came from the office phone. Because if I wasn't calling from the office phone, was I really at the office? Also, if I would be taking a shower, I needed to have the phone by me so that if it rang, no matter what point I was at, I needed to answer the phone. And I needed to answer it in an adequate amount of time, because if I didn't, who was I with? What was I doing? Why didn't I answer the phone on time? So what started out as something I felt was care and concern turned into something very ominous. I know that people around me would notice it, and I said, oh, they just don't, you know, it's just about love and care, and you know, you don't understand because it's just he's concerned for me. But in reality, when I looked at the big picture, it was a form of control. So it's not okay to be controlled by anyone. It's not okay to feel upset, like if you didn't get to the phone on time, because if you don't get to the phone on time, it's going to turn into an argument later today. You're going to have to argue about this because you didn't answer the phone on time. That's not normal. That's not a normal reaction. Real care does not feel like you're being monitored. Real care does not feel like you are under surveillance every day. So if you feel like you're in that situation, that you're always on your toes, you have to answer every call, you have to respond to every text, that is not a healthy relationship. That's not normal. I'm here to tell you this because right now, if you're listening to this and you're in denial, you are just thinking, well, it's just they love me so much. That's what it's about. It's not about them being controlling. But believe me, all of us on the outside see it. You're not seeing it because you live in it. I'm telling you this because I've been down this road. So please take my advice. It's not normal. You should never feel that way. You should never feel like you have to take someone's call. you have to call them back right away. You shouldn't feel that way. I mean, it's okay to be courteous, call back within a respectable amount of time, but to feel so nervous that you didn't answer and it's going to cause a fight later, that's not normal. That's unhealthy. Let's talk about crack number 3, when you stop feeling like an equal. And what I mean by this is you could be, if you're in a relationship, it could be that your partner doesn't trust you with anything. Or if they did give you leeway to do something, usually they'll scold you for not doing it correctly. So they say, hey, I'm going to give you this to take care of. But it didn't get done in their eyes correctly. So when it comes back and they look at it, they're like, golly, you can't do this. Like, really? You don't know how to take care of this? Just forget it. I'll do it myself. Clearly, you can't do it. You need to learn how to take care of things. You need to learn how to do this. You need to learn how to do it right. Being corrected all the time, being critiqued, monitored, being made to feel like you're a child and not a partner is not okay. That, again, is not a healthy relationship. If you feel like you're trapped and you're always being scolded, that is unhealthy. Okay? You shouldn't feel scared just to be human. Okay, we're human beings. We make mistakes. None of us are perfect. Not a single one of us. No matter how much some of us would like to believe we are not. So people make mistakes, but you shouldn't be afraid to be a human being and to make these mistakes. If there's ever a time you feel that way, you need to realize that is not a healthy situation. It's important to realize that having everything filtered by someone else and having someone make you feel belittled is absolutely not okay. It is not right to be made to feel like you're a child. Love should not feel like a constant correction. That's not what it's supposed to feel like. Let's talk about crack number 4. When your loyalty is questioned while you are also having trust issues. So you feel your trust breaking down. You feel that something's not quite right, but your loyalty is the one that's being questioned. So maybe you have a gut feeling that something's not right. Maybe your partner's stepping out on you. Maybe you feel like there's some indiscretions going on and you question it. But instead of having yourself heard, it's switched around again. We find ourselves back in the switched around situation where, well, what about you? I mean, you're always going on all those work trips. Who are you with when you go? You always come back so happy. Why are you so happy when you come back? When you leave for several days and you come back after your trip, suddenly you're like a different person. Why is that? Who have you been with? Who are you hanging out with? Who are you talking to? That can be exhausting. I mean, it can absolutely take a toll on you. I mean, it could be once in a while. It could be every day. You just don't know what you're going to encounter. But if your loyalty is being questioned, when you have this feeling, that's kind of a red flag. But, we're talking about a bunch of red flags. You start wondering, is what I'm feeling real? Am I imagining this? Am I making it up? I mean, it's a major crack in the surface. But again, if you love somebody and you don't want to have to rock the boat, you're like, well, they're questioning me because, yeah, that's true. I do come back happier when I'm out of town, but maybe it's because I don't have to deal with you. But that's just a little joke I'm throwing in there. But yeah, it isn't okay. Don't question my loyalty when I know clearly something's up with you. That's not okay. Finally, I want to talk about the number 1 crack. Okay. The number 1 crack in the surface. And it's when fear becomes the reason you stay. I am the poster child for this. I stayed way more years than I should have because of fear. And what fear? What fear, you ask? Well, numerous fears. It could be, I fear, not having enough money to cover my bills. I fear being a statistic. I'm going to be divorced. Nobody wants to be divorced. I fear that my children are going to now come from a broken home. I fear that I'm going to have to share custody with somebody now, and I don't know how that dynamic's going to work. I fear that I'm losing my home that I worked so hard for. I fear that I've invested so much time in this relationship and picked up the pieces so many times and glued them back together. That was all a waste. I'm afraid, right? I'm afraid to start over. I don't have anything to start with. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to start from nothing. That is the biggest fear. And that's why if you feel like I'm talking to you, if the shoe fits, wear it. That's why you're staying, because you're too comfortable. You don't want to leave because that would require extra work. I don't want to lose everything that I built. I mean, granted, I did build it with someone else, but God, that hurts. Having to leave that and start all over again, that's a big freaking bummer, right? Not knowing where you're going to go, that's not easy. But I always say that nothing great, was ever achieved by taking an easy road. It just isn't. If it were that easy, everybody would do it. In my situation, when I got to that point, was I scared? Hell yes, I was. Did I know what my future held? I sure didn't. Was I scared as hell? I was. I sure was. But the fact that I had such wonderful friends who love me so much, and I know they love me. My family loves me. And I knew I would be okay. And of course, God has always been the number one man in my corner, and he always has my back. And I knew that he would carry me through this. And that's exactly what he did. So this is where people get stuck. When you have the fear to leave because you're unhappy or you've been unhappy for years, that's where people get stuck. Some people will build even more. Mine was almost 15 years. But maybe yours is more. Maybe yours is approaching that. But you're just in it because it's easier. And I fear that I won't be able to make it. The truth does cost something. And it's hard to accept sometimes. So if you're listening and you feel like this is something that resonates with you and this is hitting you hard and you're upset, and hey, maybe some emotions came up for you and you realize that, gosh, I'm living a lie right now. It's probably happening because it's true. And you need to take a good, hard, long look at yourself and what you want. Life is fleeting. It's short. And I've learned that. I've been through so much. It is too short to put up with things that make us feel terrible. It wasn't until I made that choice to finally be happy and finally, take the plunge, that I became truly happy. Sometimes healing truly begins when you stop arguing with what you already know. So you see, the truth about the cracks in the surface, that's only the beginning, because our next episode, we're going to discuss what happens when you've actually accepted these things for so long? How do we manage that when we do get out? How do we manage all those feelings that came from overlooking all the cracks in the surface? All the times that I discounted my feelings, all the times that I just thought I'm being insecure, all of the times I didn't listen to myself. What happens then? So that's where this goes next. The next episode, I want to talk about the things we explain away, the excuses we make, the stories we tell ourselves so that we can just keep on going through this lie that we're living. Let's talk about it. Because really the cracks were only just the beginning. Everything else is the bigger picture. Thanks for joining me. And if what we talked about today resonated with you, please like and subscribe. And as always, I thank you for your support. See you next time.